get you guys going for the multi-guest thing. Hopefully, God, I'm sorry it's been taking so long to get you to the 100. I think
That's fine.
I think,
And it's my fault for not actually.
Dude,
yeah, it's more my fault.
I still think that you'd be awesome for debate content on what's up, Brian? Content on TikTok, man. I think that you're pretty fire. IRI does that too. IRI has like he'll do like his Twitch like stream, and then he'll talk to people on TikTok. So it's like definitely you can like it's just it gets you into like so many like new people.
It's been my fault. I just have to buckle down and like work on it. It's not anyone else's fault. I can assure you.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining. We got our science debate panel, our anti-MAHA power hour, talking about the ways science is combating what is going on at the national level and how we are going forward. We got big news out of Arizona right now. So Arizona is trying to pass something that was going to restrict our access to vaccines, and specifically mRNA technology. So they're trying to ban all types of mRNA based medicines,
even the ones inside your cells.
I know, right? I know. So anything. So even livestock can't be used. You can't have it. So we are organizing right now in order to try to stop it. We have a email campaign going for the Board of Nursing. We have several initiatives, emails, and phone calling initiatives. So if you're interested, please join the Discord. Discord.drgregshow.com. That's where we're doing the organizing, but we have an open comment period, a hearing on Tuesday, I believe. So we just found out about this pretty late, but we are like in a push to try to push on these legislators as much as we can in Arizona, because Arizona is actually a really big state for biotechnology. I didn't realize this, but ASU, and they actually have a ton of their economy is based off of biotechnology. So this is going to be, like mRNA technology isn't just for the COVID vaccine. It is the next generation of how, as molecular biologists, we deliver DNA into a cell. So by banning this stuff, you're banning not only like anti-cancer current vaccines, but you're also limiting the possibility in the future to get the best treatment possible. And on top of that, the bills that they're trying to pass are asinine in the fact that you could lose your medical license if you actually are administering the best technology. I mean, how crazy is that? You could actually lose your license if you are actually administering the best care possible to your patient. I mean, that's dangerous. It's insane. It's not just going to hurt patients. It's going to hurt the ability for, it's just, there's so many bad things about it. So we're trying to contact Board of Nursing. We're trying to contact the senators. So again, discord.drgregshow.com. And we're going to be talking about that every night until the hearing. So, but thank you guys. Thank you, Prime. Thank you, Corey, for being here. I appreciate you. We have as always, there's always insane news, man, about anti-science stuff that's happening. Corey, did you want to talk about, there was an incredible like infographic that you talked about. Yeah.
So published by Nature. Pretty much.
One second.
Yeah, go ahead.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay. So Nature Journal, which is like, pretty much one of the, if not the biggest, I can't remember it's usually either Science is at number one or Nature's at number one. I think they go back and forth if I remember correctly. But either way, Nature, big journal, one of the biggest. And they published this nice infographic where as you scroll through it, they essentially summarize pretty nicely with, as you mentioned, some nice infographics of how the Trump administration sort of overlapping or essentially a continuation of our conversation from last week of how the Trump administration is essentially, gutting science and having the numbers to back it up in terms of the number of grants issued. I think it was a drop of around 25%, or like sort of a historical low, so to speak, just comparing data going back to the last 10 years, and also decreasing in staff, both, I believe, at, pretty much all across the board, I guess pick your institution, NIH, CDC, EPA, et cetera, et cetera. And so, yeah, pretty much just the decrease in research and development on all across the board in terms of cancer research and environmental research and all that stuff, which I think puts the United States on a bad road personally, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think the narrative that the MAHA people and Sanish is here. So Sanish is joined, but the narrative right now that they are pushing, hi Sanish, the narrative that they are pushing right now by the Trump administration is that they are only going after specifically like woke DEI stuff, right? That's how they frame it, where it's like this is based off of no science kind of thing, where the science doesn't support it, but it's just because of the Biden administration doing stuff that it shouldn't have been, as opposed to like obviously what's actually happening is that like science that is related to the pandemic and how we've studied SARS-CoV-2 and how we studied COVID-19, now that has become a huge target on its back, as in the way of like how PCR was talked about as this like boogeyman by the right wing algorithm driven dribble that comes out of MAGA. This is like, but what we actually see is like actual science, right? That actually creates actually good medicine. And this is like 30% of those grants that are just going away.
Yeah, and pretty much exactly as you said, in terms of a lot of the narrative is like, well, no, the science or the funding to science that's being cut is, that's the quote unquote, useless science, or, it's all about, cutting DEI programs, which, there's the tiniest grain of truth to that in terms of like, if you are carrying out research that the Trump administration doesn't approve of, they highlighted in the article, or the article with the infographic of like they are not funding research that, let's say, research that's devoted to that, let's say, might serve marginalized communities or communities that like face discrimination, and so if you carry out that type of research, then like, yes, the Trump administration is unlikely to fund it. But then also it's not only these types of programs, like it is actually, well, all research is meaningful, but like biomedical research included as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like they can't, I mean, how can like studying cancer be like woke or whatever? You know what I mean? It's just crazy. I mean, Sydney, what do you think about, go ahead, Prime, go ahead.
Oh, sure. Just a second. And for our friends at home who are just watching, right? If you want to find the article that our friend Corey so helpfully brought up to us, it's called U.S. Science After a Year of Trump. So U.S. Science After a Year of Trump. And it's Nature is it .com or something? Yeah, nature.com. And so you can find it yourself. It's a nice article, and they got like fancy graphics. So it's really, really well done, actually. But in any case, yeah. So like this, rapid shrinking of the grants given out, right? You guys are asking, like, how is this could be related to DEI? But like, do you remember like how this started? Right? Like, do you remember the process in which this started to happen? Like, it was like the crudest way of accomplishing exactly this, right? Like, they literally just like had like a list of words, right, of banned words, and they just applied that to any grant application or like actual grant that had already been applied, right? Like or awarded. They applied that, and they just like found it. So if it was in there, right, no matter what the context was, right, it was just getting canceled. I'm not sure if it's still that bad, if they're that crude, at using it now. Maybe they've improved their process. I don't know. I don't, but because it's just not in the news cycle in the same way anymore. But that's what they were doing, right? So when you say, right, oh, this has nothing to do with DEI, but if you're, if you're doing cancer research, right, and then like your proposal talks about, oh, we're curious how this affects Black, indigenous populations, or like how does our this particular chemical react in the bodies of women? Well, that's a lot of buzzwords that they don't like, right? And then that's canceled.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
It's like they were literally trying to rename. It was just literally a Control F, like, and they were trying to rename.
Control F. Yes.
Yeah, like the Amelia Gay had like the name that, and they were like, obviously that's like some woke stuff, but obviously it's not.
Yeah. They had I think there was like the gay. It was a gay. The name gay or something. Yeah, someone had the name gay, and they thought like it was talking about LGBT research or whatever, right? But someone just had the surname gay, and things like along that line. So it was just in the document, so it got canceled. Like things like this happen. Like it's crazy, and we're supposed to take these people seriously. Like,
yeah, it's very frustrating. I mean, Sanish, how do you feel about like funding science outside? Like what do you think? What are your thoughts on how broadly we should be funding science? Like, is the usefulness of science research and science spending outside of just like strict return on investment, money capital kind of stuff? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I don't think that science should be funded for revenue, especially. Science should be funded for the progress itself, not for revenue and for human development. And I'm really disappointed in current government of the US to prioritize the military. I think they are going for something big, like war. That won't be that useful for humanity. So science should be funded for progress, not for revenue.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a privilege to be able to study things outside of just strict. We have to only to the bare necessities kind of thing, right? It's like we don't necessarily might understand why like dance studies would exist or something, but then you realize that like humans before written language, culture was given through word of mouth, through dance, and that's how the stories of cultures and how people used to be handed down. So it's actually really important to study things like dance in order to better understand humans as a species. So it's like we are. It's nice in order to have that ability, right, to actually stand versus a strict like engineering, way of understanding the world. And even let's take the worst examples of like cultural Marxism or whatever they want to call it, like sociology, right? That's basically what's under attack directly by these guys. I mean, sociology is basically how humans are adapting to their culture, right? And that's the study of society and how society is molded and shaped by conspiracies, by disinformation, misinformation, right? How information spreads within our society. I mean, isn't that a very interesting thing in order to study right now? I feel like and it's very telling that people would not want to study that. I think by the same people that are pushing this conspiracy, that are taking advantage of people, that are pushing grifting, that are pushing and making money off of lying to people.
Yeah, and I believe that is, if I remember correctly, that is explicitly highlighted in the article where research devoted to things like misinformation seems to be deprioritized or pretty much like not funded altogether, and sort of to expand upon I believe what was also mentioned in terms of the prioritization of spending in terms of, if I remember correctly, also from the article, of like obviously they're still funding research, but they're also, it seems like they are now prioritizing research and development that is, let's say, is more in the vein of like this will lead to research in the defense area as opposed to non-defense research. Now, what that actually speaks to in a larger picture, I don't know for sure, but it does seem a little bit strange that if they're pretty much not only deprioritizing biomedical research, but then prioritizing research towards like defense, that seems, well, a little bit strange, or, maybe not the greatest sign.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my friends at the Department of Energy basically say it's like they have money for AI and defense. Like that's basically it. And you can actually see it by all these agencies being cut by 20%. And basically those are staff positions that are meant to help manage these grants. So program managers, and the program managers are basically people that, the NSF gets money and they say, okay, the big pool of money, like Biden's big initiative was cancer research. So a program manager would be within that umbrella and be basically saying, okay, my expertise is going to be new deliveries of medicines to help with brain cancer. So it's like there's a ton of different ways of tackling brain cancer research, but we're going to specifically go for like this mechanism. And now like that program manager is specifically going to be talking and coordinating with the PIs and helping them with however they need in order to spend their money correctly, to get the resources that they need, because the government is like very invested obviously in this professor like doing good work and also being able to do it, right? Give them the actual infrastructure in order for that to happen. So when you see a 20% decrease in just agency staff levels, that just means that like they just have less infrastructure and less administration in order to actually facilitate this. So they have less things that they're covering, right? It's just it's not just the pullback of the grants, it's the pullback of the infrastructure that allows science to actually happen.
Yeah. Another thing they highlight in the article, if I remember correctly, they sort of touch upon of like, what's projected for this upcoming year. And like they mention, obviously, projected to approve less grants, but like, is it solely the results of like, the Trump administration not wanting things approved, or they seem to sort of touch upon the fact that, having just the staff to read these grants or, and to approve them isn't actually there as much as it was, or rather of the staff remaining, like there's only so much you can approve if, the staff isn't there to like go through all these grants and then, these committees to go through these grants and actually approve them. If I remember, they mentioned that in the article.
Yeah, I'm looking at the NIH proposal from the Senate and the House is actually a 2% increase for the NIH. The Trump administration proposal is a 40% decrease.
Yeah.
Like what? The NSF, the National Science Foundation, it was the House and Senate compromise was a minus 3.4% in the 2026 budget. The National Science Foundation Trump proposal minus 57%. NASA the same way, minus 46 for the Trump administration. House Senate minus 1.1.
This is sorry. You want to go?
No, go ahead. Yeah, go. I was just saying that's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
This is an article I saved from last year. Starts this way. Picture this. You're a researcher who has spent years developing a grant proposal, gone through layers of expert review, and received National Science Foundation approval. Then some kid, barely out of college, whose main qualification appears to be founding a company that puts ads on the blockchain, logs into a Zoom meeting, pays more attention to his fingernails than the discussion, and kills your grant with an uninterested thumbs down.
Exactly.
That's what happened when Doge was, still a thing, I guess. But just one of the Doge kids, he was put in charge of this. He had no qualifications in terms of research or science or anything like that. He was just put in charge. It was just saying thumbs down, thumbs down, whatever, right? It wasn't literally not even pay attention to what was happening. And then that was the end. Like you had literally gotten to the like these people had gotten to the end of the process, right? And then they just like they just started this review involving this guy, and you're just like thumbs up, thumbs down. That's it.
Yeah, it's I mean
like reviewing movies.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like it's not just that these people, in order to get a competitive grant like that, like you're not just like those are the best grants in the world and the hardest to get. Like you are like scrapping together money, like in order to be a professor. Like you're basically like a small business, so you have to get in all these different income levels. So you're kind of like scraping together state, if you can have it. If you're in California, there's some like energy grants that are possible. You sometimes in your university you have like some small stuff, and so it's really hard to exist, like and you're not really, there's no like solidified future for your research. So these NSF grants basically are the ways that we kind of like invest in not just like a technology, but these professors for a couple of years, so that they can actually like do a long-term study that's actually good, that can actually produce something of value, so then that we can like as a society spin off a company, because their discovery becomes a patent, and then that patent through these incubator spaces that all the universities have, they spin off a company from that, and now that a lot of times the professor becomes a CEO of that new company, and that's how we get an engine of new innovation in the United States. That's why people all around the world come and immigrate to the United States, because these are new companies. These are the latest and greatest research, and so it's like it's stopping that research, but then it's also stopping the innovation and the ways that the United States can actually play a role in the future, because these are the best researchers in the world. These are the best research, and we want them here. So basically what I'm saying is that if we don't offer these people these grants, other countries will. Canada will, Europe will, and they have been, by the way. So the Canada, I've heard that they were saying that hey, we'll get you, we'll get you if they get frozen out, like you're allowed to come here.
And sort of on that note, they're sort of I think tangentially related, or I think we can be related to what we're talking about. Did anybody aside from me, I guess, since I'm Canadian, watch the Prime Minister of Canada's speech at the World Economic Forum?
You guys are world players now, unironically. It's crazy.
Or rather attempt, and and Mark Carney is mentioned this new world order, and like as he says, the middle countries kind of have to band together, and the United States can no longer be relied upon to be a reliable and trustworthy ally, and like the United States maybe ceding being the leading power in the world, but now I think the same thing can be said in the research and development space, of like the United States can no longer be relied upon to be, the leading the way in research and development, especially even funding it for the long term.
Real quick, Mackenzie is in chat, and she has done absolutely incredible work for the Science and Freedom for Everyone nonprofit that we've done. She's been doing incredible work for the website. So I just want to give a shout out to Mackenzie.
Oh, great. Shout out to them.
Sinish, how do you feel, like in your view, like about this kind of disruption that is happening? Like the United States, like might not be like it doesn't look like it's going to be stop it, Mackenzie, thank you. The dominant world player in science and engineering. So I mean, I feel like there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of other countries like to step up now. And maybe it's a good thing that it's a non-polar world where you don't have like one dominant superpower, and you have a lot of other countries now kind of investing into this.
I'm seeing more countries like other countries who are back within after America. So in my opinion, that US is pretty much doing bad on its 40% degrade on NS. What do you call NHI? Isn't it? No, NSI, National
NSF?
Science of
NASA?
yeah, NASA and NSF.
Mm-hmm.
40% degree is wild, man. That's a wild. And I see some of the other countries like China and also India and as well as Australia, if you prefer. And now let's say Canada. They are all on the race, man, in the term of science and technology. So it might be anyone. It could be anyone. Also Japan. We can't forget about Japan as well as Korea,
Mm-hmm.
South Korea. So I'm
Right.
seeing all of these two emerge from the emerge from the underdog to be the top countries in the world in the next few years.
Yeah.
And
I think
degree
it's like such a good time, like for it's like it because it's coming at like the worst possible time if the United States wants to have any player in the 21st century. That's what's so crazy about this. Like it's like just as the wave is crashing. Oh, thank you, Mackenzie. It's just as the wave is crashing, just about as it's about to happen, like with AI and this huge disruption in like what we're gonna have and be as a future in society in terms of like manufacturing, research and development, all the computers, quantum computing, fusion technology. Like there's so many things that are just on the precipice here, and it's just like it is the worst time. Like you'd basically you couldn't imagine basically a supervillain strong enough in order to hinder the United States. Like there couldn't. It's like the worst Lex Luthor supervillain archetype that would ever be envisioned coming through and like just chopping the United States down at the precipice right when we had, because of NVIDIA and the tariffs that Biden put in, the protectionary tariffs that inhibited China from, and protected U.S. businesses from developing their technology. Like it's just like it's like a comical bad guy job that Trump is doing. Like if he was trying to be a more evil supervillain, he couldn't be better at hindering the United States
or be more incompetent.
Yes.
And Doctor, what I want to say about is, I think Trump is literally what do you think? What is he thinking actually? As a businessman, I think he's thinking as a businessman, not as a politician.
Mm-hmm. The problem is that he is hurting U.S. business. That's the problem. I think that even if he was thinking as a businessman, like this wouldn't be the path forward. I think that he's just thinking it as a narcissist, and he's just thinking about it as himself. He doesn't care about the United States. He doesn't care about American jobs. He doesn't care about us as an economy. He doesn't care about the future of the United States. He doesn't care about the future of the world. It's just, it literally is only him. It's all about him. And he loves the fact that he plays this quasi king role where people have to come and like bloviate him in order to then be subservient to him with like these gifts, these gold gifts in the White House, and they kneel to him, and he loves that. That's all he cares about. And if the entire world goes to shit because of it, then whatever.
So, a few things. One, Corey, check your DMs. Two, I want to go back and say two things because the conversation has shifted, but like I just want to throw these two things out. One, going back to what we were talking about, like the DEI purge, basically, right? And it's something I guess I was referring to previously, but just like the beginning of this article, images of quote unquote Enola Gay, the aircraft that dropped an atomic bomb in Hiroshima in Japan, are among those targeted by the U.S. military, an initiative to eliminate content related to diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI). They are among a number of photos unrelated to DEI that have been mistakenly flagged, including those from an Army Corps of Engineers dredging project in California, seemingly because an engineer in the image had the last name Gay. So I mean, that really is. It's just like we were, Dr. Greg and I were saying, Control F. That's what they did. That's how they started just eliminate things and say that whatever's attached to these buzzwords is like now not worthy of either U.S. funding or just like being part of our history, right? Like a purge was happening. And then beyond that, when we are what was the other thing I was going to say? Damn it. Hold on. I had something else here as well. Oh yes, right. It was the Canada speech, Carney speech. Not all of Canada speaking, but
We were all
when-
spiritually speaking through Carney.
we
Yeah,
are-
no doubt about that.
Carney. Yeah. I think that without a doubt, like that speech will like be one for the history books. Carney's Davos speech. I think it's a turning point. Or maybe not even a turning point, at the very least, a marker in like in world history, because the changes that Carney was talking about, right? Like Canada and EU, right? The Western world, searching for either a new axis to like revolve around, right? Or just like going their own way, whatever that might be. That is in response, right? He's not going to, if there's going to be a change that comes from this, right? It's not because of Carney's speech, but it's just a marker to show how like the world has completely lost faith in the United States, right? Or at least the Western world. Because the rest of the world, right, everyone else, and Carney alluded to this in his speech, right? The rest of the world actually already knew this is all BS, right? They understood the favoritism. They understood who would be an acceptable target of violence from the NATO alliance, from the Western-led coalition.
Who the rules apply to, who they don't apply to.
Who the rules apply to, who they don't apply to. And I really, love that about Carney's speech, and that it was self-aware, because it could have easily not been self-aware. It could have easily gone the other way. But he's like, yeah, this all worked for us being Western aligned, because we got all the benefits. We just pretended that this was fair, right? And when it was brought up, we just plugged our ears. We didn't listen, right? But we knew what was happening, right? We knew what it was. But now it's shifted, and now I don't think he specifically said this, but like we could be the target of the violence, right? Like the threats against Greenland. Well, now that's a Western aligned area. Like that's not Greenland itself, but like Denmark is part of NATO, right? Like the unspoken, or maybe kind of spoken agreement that we direct this violence, these violations of international law outwards, right, and not at each other. Well, that's being broken now, and now it's unacceptable, right? Again, I appreciate Carney to at least be honest about like how this like was like what the deal was here and what the benefits were, but still, the point is that like our being America's closest ally, spiritually, physically, metaphorically, right? Like our closest ally is talking about like moving away from us, right? Like of distancing themselves from them, not geographically, but distancing themselves away from us.
Well, we're trying. We're gonna make that cut somewhere.
Yeah, but like this is like, I mean, like for those, and one, if you haven't heard about this speech, you should go check it out, right? Like the speech itself is like 15 minutes long. You should have to go check, take a look at this thing, and also know that he wasn't the only one saying this, right? So this was Carney, but there's also like Ursula von der Leyen, like the head of EU,
yeah,
something, yeah, EU commissioner or whatever, I don't know, something, EU something. And Macron was like alluding to this, like the world is saying this, or again, the Western world is saying this in a way that it hadn't done before. Like, this is huge. This is huge. Now, it won't happen tomorrow, right? Like the changes, if changes happen, we still yet to be seen, right? But if changes happen, it won't be tomorrow. It won't be like, world shifting. Like, America still has its place as of now, but it shows that the world has lost confidence and wants to like search for alternatives. Canada has already started making a choice, right? Like a big trade deal with China, and just breaking off. Like, the U.S. doesn't want people doing trades with China, but Canada's like, we'll do it ourselves any which way, right? Canada's asserting itself like on the world stage and telling others we need to start asserting ourselves as well, right? We have to figure out another path forward. Like, in terms of like the U.S. being at the center of financial and like the financial world and the military world, right? Imagine like, trade relations either decreasing, and they've been doing that already, right? People have been looking for alternatives to like interacting with the U.S. economy, like since 2025, since Trump and his tariffs, but even sometimes before then. But like, imagine a world where like those nations are avoiding investments into the United States, and imagine a rearmed Europe, right? Like, I think that's on the table, a rearmed Europe, because right now the part of the deal was that like America would be the one providing security, right? America will defend us from the Russians or the Chinese. America will do all that, and we just back their plays. But they can't rely on America to do this anymore, right? It's with what happened with Ukraine, right? And like, will America support? Will it not? Right? All the rhetoric from Trump about like, well, maybe Trump's correct, or sorry, Putin's correct, and all that stuff, right? Like, imagine a world where Western Europe says, okay, we'll do it ourselves again. The reason why they stopped doing it themselves previous is because the two world wars where they slaughtered each other. So they could do it again, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with everything that you said, and as you said, change will not happen overnight, and we know it's yet to be seen, how much change will actually happen. But I do hope that all of the words that were said by Carney, like, is followed up with action. At the end of the day, can we ever truly decouple from the United States? Almost certainly not. From what I understand, well, definitely for sure, United States is Canada's biggest trading partner. I think according to the numbers, I think we export 70 to 80%.
77% is like the last number I saw.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. So it's like, and will that number go to zero? Definitely not. Okay. But how much lower it will go? I'm hoping it is pretty significant. And I think the deal with China, and specifically in regards to EVs, like, and this is, a sign of, what Canada can do, and also how Canada, let's say, was following the lead of the United States, because I believe pretty much one of the only reasons, if not the only reason, Canada had the same 100% tariffs against Chinese electric vehicles is because of the United States. As in, I believe the United States has that exact tariff against Chinese-made EVs. And correct me if I'm wrong.
From what I understand, there were problems between China and Canada. Like, China, if you remember, like, this was a while ago, right? A few years ago, they arrested the executive, or the daughter of the executive. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there was definitely a political aspect to it too, for sure. I remember exactly which, and all that stuff. But I do believe an element of that wasn't only that, but you're absolutely right. That was definitely a part of it. But like, pretty much,
I think it's a lot of things. Yeah,
exactly. But in that vein, and I'm curious to see if the European Union will exercise this type of. This is where I'm more confident in terms of, like, the EU was doing this, or more specifically, the Netherlands was doing this, specifically from pressure from the Biden administration, where that company that makes that lithography technology, ASML, that's located in the Netherlands, and they specifically do not allow China to have the most advanced lithography technology. And I believe that's explicitly because the Biden administration said, do not sell this technology to China. But then I think there's no reason now why the Netherlands has to follow that, where it's like, okay, well, if you're pretty much like, nah, if you want to decouple from the European Union, well, why should we restrict access to this technology to China? I understand the European Union has its own interests as well, but like,
well, I agree with you, but I got a tiny bit of pushback. One, just for the audience again, because you might not know what lithography is, but like it's just an important process in like creating like advanced computer chips, right? They sell a machine that does the lithography, right? And like the only one, I think, only company, period, that's creating this machine. And so like the U.S. Put restrictions on its trade, right, to China to like slow down their progress. But once again, bad idea. It's not going to work out for us. But yeah, in any case, right. So I would agree that like Europe should like look after Europe's interests, and that it makes sense for like that company to just like start selling again. However, it may not be so simple as to start trading again.
no, I agree.
Because the U.S. those trade restrictions come with consequences that they're still subject to, right? Like the U.S. could, like restrict their access to American markets, right? Or to not selling, but like American finance. There's all kinds of ways because again, the U.S. is still at the center of the financial world. This is part of the problem, right? The U.S. has been using that, and I forget if Carney said this or someone else at Davos was talking about this, but like the U.S. has been using its role as the center of finance as a weapon, right, against other nations. Now, again, they've been doing this for a long time, right? Now it's just like the Europeans aren't so happy about it because it could be used against them now. They realize through the tariffs, right? Specifically. But again, we've been doing this for a long time. But now they're saying, well, we got to protect ourselves from this. But they haven't done so yet. And so to wrap it up, yes, that lithography company, simply like breaking U.S. trade sanctions is not so easy yet.
I agree with you. And for sure, there will be, if they do that, there will be consequences. I would have to look into it, and even then, I'm sure the information is not readily available. Of like, what will be the entirety of the consequences if the Netherlands or this company if they started selling that technology to China? But what I would say, assuming the consequences from the United States is not catastrophic, I would say like go for it. Just as it's not a one-to-one analogy, but just as Canada has made this deal with China for electric vehicles, but that will, as in Canada, well, specifically in Ontario, and not everyone in Canada or not every province is on board with this deal in China. Specifically, there's a little bit of a backlash in Ontario because Ontario, there's a huge auto manufacturing sector in Ontario, and they understandably don't want Chinese EV vehicles there because, like, yes, they're much cheaper. But then I would say, take the hit personally. But obviously, I'm in Quebec, not in Ontario, so I'm less affected. I also, I'm not a big car person, but I would say, like, yeah, take the hit, assuming it's not like catastrophic. But again, that's just sort of
there's
like
even
a casual
bigger. There's even something bigger. People haven't been talking about it. At least I haven't seen people talking about this. But the Carney administration, I believe, released an economic plan, like going forward, like an investment plan, and it's like talking about like again decentering the United States, of like reaching out to other world powers, right, and opening logistic routes so that Canadian businesses, right, can easily do can form relationships with other businesses in other areas of the world, right? So just opening more trade routes and like exploring that and providing like funding so they can do that, right? So they can start switching and also like making Canada's manufacturing more Canadian focused, being that like it's like Canadian products for Canadian people, so like to increase their own market share, so they're not having to buy things from the United States, right? Like again, this is just a plan, but the fact that the plan exists is huge.
Yeah, I agree. All that to say is like, I hope countries like the Netherlands or companies like that in the Netherlands, like seriously reconsider the deals that they have made with the United States and actually make an
I
actual
agree.
effort. I think that's a huge bargaining chip. Again, I understand there's consequences, but I would say go for it, assuming the consequences aren't catastrophic.
Doctor, I want to say something about this. Okay, as I know so far, I can see something is, as a geopolitical perspective, many developed countries are going to be, as in my perspective, they are going to collapse in terms of economically in the future. In some point, I think look at just look at the uh, what do you call statistics. Just look at the statistics of the world right now. Um, America is also going through rough instability, and next is China about with their development without demand setup, and also about Japan with overpopulation, and also as well as South Korea with underpopulation. So what do you think about that?
What did you say about Japan? I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you said overpopulation, underpopulation.
Japan with overpopulation, Japan with overpopulation, and South Korea with underpopulation.
I think Japan has an underpopulation problem. I think that's what they're like in terms of the birth rate is. Like
I think they're
decreasing in Japan.
projected to have an underpopulation. That might be an
Yeah,
argument to be made that they're overpopulated now, but I think projected into the future.
Japan and South Korea are doing, yeah. But still, like you're identifying a problem, right? So you're asking us what we think about like how that affects the geopolitical stage.
Yeah, I think there won't be superpower like this after that. I think
Yeah, I agree.
current will not be there. I mean, the current superpower we have today, America, China. So there's a thing, but after the collapse, which will happen to be economic collapse as well as population collapse, so we can say that there won't be superpower as like today. I'm sorry, I'm really mediocre at English, so don't mind. Okay.
No, you're okay, man. No,
Don't
I
need to
think,
apologize. It's okay.
I think you're right. I think that there is like a huge problem with the United States, absolutely, and you're right too. China's economy is struggling. It is slowing down. There's like they're having growth problems. So it's yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I don't think, like I said before, I don't think that we'll see kind of like a huge hegemonic superpower like we see with the United States. I mean, it kind of was already a weird thing that happened during World War II when the United States was kind of selling weapons to both sides and benefiting massively to it. That's why the New York Stock Exchange became the center financially of the world. And then as the Europe fell, the United States was able to profit from that as well. So it's just like it was like a weird thing. It would have to be some type of huge world war, I think, in order to really bring a single power up into like power like this again. But I think it's actually a good thing to like competition between countries in order to develop and invest into science and invest into technology is a good thing in general. As long if we can spend that competition and those resources into out developing each other with technology as opposed to like figuring out how we can annihilate one another, that's the best. That would be the best possible scenario.
I would maybe not push back, but rather I would. So in terms of, I guess, this overall massive global hegemon, like the United States, probably unlikely, but sort of, I think to springboard of what you said in terms of like investments in science and technology, I don't actually know for sure, but I suspect that China's massive investments in science and technology are probably going to pay off in the long run. And I can see China potentially, as you said, China definitely has their own economic issues, but they also, they did report last year that this massive 1 trillion exports, but like they still have issues with, as you said, like in terms of a collapsing real estate market, if I understand correctly. They also have challenges with demographics as well. But I think there's good reasons to believe that like their investments in technology and their massively educated population, that they're struggling to. They have a large youth unemployment issue that I've spoken about before. But if they can start like mobilizing that, or these people start entering into the labor market and actually get jobs, and China does actually seem to value science, technology, and research, I think that will pay dividends in the long run. And I can see them pretty much become or surpassing the United States in pretty much like every aspect.
They're definitely investing, and China's definitely. I think you're right. Like by the numbers right now, I think that you're like it is. It's the growth, and this is like the capitalist mindset and the problem with it, where it's not like just a increase. You have to be like exponentially increasing too, and that's like the problem. But if the investments into China is just like you were saying, renewable and sustainable energy production, then in the long run, that's going to be the investment that wins out. Right. It's like if we had to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in order to put down tens of thousands of miles of high speed rail and huge arrays of solar and wind everywhere, and that if that struggles our economy for a couple of years or whatever, and then in the end we have like access to all these server farms that nobody else has, these chips that nobody else has, and we're the manufacturing not just the world's like goods, but now we have like manufacturing the world's internet. I think that's definitely a future within like China's possibility.
Yeah, and another reason why I say that, and again, this is obviously speculation on my part, but this is just going with the information that I have, and I tried to do my due diligence. But there's obviously a lot of talk about the AI race, especially the AI race between, well, pretty much the only players are like the United States, China, and I'm sure somewhere in Europe or like the UK as well. But let's just say, from what I understand, and I'm more than happy to be corrected, but like, one of the major challenges, from what I understand, in terms of like, developing AI is like, well, there's the data centers, but then I think it ultimately comes down to power, like how do you actually power these data centers? Yeah. And there's good reasons to believe that, China is investing heavily in being truly energy independent in terms of like, and as in like, solar, wind, nuclear. Last I checked, in terms of the numbers of like, China is pretty much building the most new nuclear reactors, more than, as opposed to, from what I understand, the United States is looking to like reactivate or bring back, decommissioned nuclear reactors. But they're still not investing in solar. I'm pretty sure like Trump is pretty vocal about him being anti-wind, pretty much he's just drill, baby, drill. And there's a lot of rhetoric around, one of the reasons why the United States did what they did to Venezuela is because, like, China has, is trying to get maybe this stranglehold in South America. This rhetoric about oil in Venezuela. But from what I understand, like, yes, Venezuela did export oil to China, but I think that represented about 4% of like the oil there. And like, yes, they still depend on it, but at the end of the day, China seems to be investing heavily in not wanting to continue to burn oil and coal, and they really want to like pretty much build up this entire energy infrastructure. And I think that will only benefit them in the overall AI race. Like, I think the data center, again, I could be wrong, but I think at the end of the day, data centers are useless without power. And if the power infrastructure is not there, then it's like, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I think that, I mean, they're doing the right investments in order to be set up in the future, and they were creating the most coal fire power plants for the longest time, and then now they're putting in the most solar investments at the same time. So, and now they're making a majority of the world's electric vehicles, and they're like really good, like cheap. They're really good quality, and they're
And I also
cheap.
think they lead the way in like just battery and storage of energy
Mhm.
as well. Technology there.
Yeah, so it's just like, I mean, that's what you would want to do. I mean, if you were gearing up in order to do it, I mean, they're doing like all the right things. So it's pretty astounding. I mean, I don't for and I do agree. I think that Venezuela is like about the heavy crude, obviously, right, and which is crazy to be that invested in such an archaic technology. And I feel like this whole thing with Greenland is about the rare earth minerals. I think
Yeah.
that's and that has everything to do with batteries and solar and but at the same time, like, Trump is, like you were saying, stopping all this renewable and sustainable development. So that's what I can't square that. Like, why would he I think it's just like an imperialist thing that they're like, this is what you'd want to do, and he's just like trying to take it over. I don't know if he's genuinely trying to be like, we need to secure our rare earth minerals. But I don't know. It's
Yeah.
very,
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I was just going to comment on how even the idea is foolish, because like Corey and I were discussing this
Monday.
the other day, yes, on the Reverie,
On
Mondays,
your
8
show.
p.m.
Yeah.
Eastern.
Shout out to the
Uh,
Reverie.
Yeah, come join us, twitch.tv/Prime Kai or youtube.com/Prime Kai. Any case, we were talking about this, and it's like a foolish idea. So yes, Greenland, as far as we can tell, is extremely rich in natural resources. Greenland also, as far as we can tell, is 80% buried under a glacier. This is like, so there is a certain amount of material that is quote unquote easily accessible within Greenland, and that's like 130 or so billion of precious metals or whatever, right? Like that's underneath the ground, the minerals, right? That's underneath the ground, but the rest, no. The rest is going to take billions of dollars of investment just to get it out. And and so, like, if you're saying, hey, we want to secure mineral rights, well, I mean, well, one, we can already do that in Greenland. Like, we can just begin drilling or digging or whatever the case may be for the particular mineral we're talking about. But we already have the ability. Greenland is happy to do that. Denmark is happy to do that as well. But like owning this thing, right, and actually like maximizing value would take an incredible investment and a credible amount of time. Greenland's own, I believe there was the prime minister, said like, yeah, like it would take at least a decade of heavy investment before you could actually start exploiting like the deeper resources here, right? Like it's just like people need to understand this. Like if we had Greenland tomorrow, we wouldn't be richer tomorrow, right? We wouldn't have all this, right? And again, who gets richer here, right? Is it us? Do I get richer? Does Dr. Greg get richer? Does his family get fed from this? No, certainly not.
You got some
right?
nice minerals in your mail.
Yeah, here's a handful of minerals. This is your dividend, right? Yeah, so we don't get richer, but the effort to take these resources, to properly exploit these resources, right? Yeah, that's a long time coming. And right, and this is the thing I actually really meant to get to. What's important here, like understanding how much effort it would take, right? Like from any like rational perspective, right? And companies have been alluding to this previously. As far as I know, they haven't said it like outright because they don't want to get Trump angry. But like by any rational means, right? Why would a big corporation like Exxon or like any of the big mining interests, right, go to Greenland to break their backs like for this for these minerals when they could go literally anywhere else to do the exact same thing, right? The capital will go where it's easiest, right? Just like we did with oil. We went to all the places where like you could just like dig 20 feet down and like grab the oil there. That's where we started, right? And then eventually we had to like diversify and go to places where it's much harder, right? Then we had to emitting like fracking, for instance, right? So they absolutely don't want to go to Greenland because it's just not worth it. Like, it's not economically viable to do so without heavy U.S. government subsidies.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And I think that also, again, I could be wrong. I think that also holds true with like the oil in Venezuela. Of like, despite the fact that like they have these huge, like I think the largest reserves like in the world, but it's like I think like it was like the CEO or some executive at ExxonMobil said like Venezuela is like uninvestable at this point. It's like, yeah, you have to actually build out the infrastructure, and the infrastructure is not there to even extract the heavy crude, even if you wanted to, or like you have to invest the billions of dollars now over the long term to hopefully get what you want and make money, start making money.
Yeah, and there's like, in case people don't know, right? There's like 3 types of crude oil. There's like light crude, then medium crude. I'm not sure if it's called medium. And then heavy crude. And like it depends on where you're like digging, right? Where you're digging, it depends on like what you'll find. And each of them requires like a different level of processing, right, before they become something usable. And like, yeah, like heavy crude is the hardest, thickest. It's not, it's thicker than gravy. It's like
Molasses.
sludge. Yeah, like molasses. Yeah, like molasses. It's very, very thick. And it requires like a specialized process to do so. So it's not just like, so basically crude is not like the same wherever you go, right? It depends on like what you have, right? And then you have to have a facility that can process that type of crude, and then turn it into something viable. Like my understanding is that like usually what we put in our cars, gasoline, comes from medium crude. I think maybe you can take it from heavy crude, but it just takes more effort. That's my understanding. I could be wrong about that. But in any case, right, like this idea, if we just get the oil, right, the crude oil from Venezuela, then that becomes like gasoline in your cars, and your gasoline prices go down. That is so far from the truth. That is like so far from the truth. And like a misunderstanding, and in not even a misunderstanding, it's probably just a lie. I think Trump might know at least this much. I'm going to give him credit here, right? And just say otherwise, he's lying to the American people. So like imagine that simply taking these that crude oil would equal like lower gas prices, but then it gets even worse. It gets even worse because of what he's actually doing, right? So first of all, we're just engaging in high seas piracy. So like there's like the tankers, like the Venezuelan oil tankers that are going like to China or to Russia, and then we're just like sending the U.S. Navy to just steal them and then and take them over, right? Like that's literally high seas piracy right there. Definition of it. But the proceeds of that, he's storing it in offshore bank accounts. He's storing these in offshore bank accounts controlled by the U.S. and who else? Like he's creating a literal slush fund out there outside. Like, why not use American banks? We're very good at storing ill-gotten gains. Like, but he's specifically storing it outside the U.S. It's wild. What's going to happen with that money? We don't know.
The level of corruption is genuinely just it's unfathomable, man. It's crazy.
High seas piracy. Like that's what that is. That's piracy.
It's so frustrating, dude. It's so crazy. I agree. I just in the interest of time, with we have 2 other articles to get to. I just wanted to go over the 2 other articles that we linked.
Yeah, absolutely.
The EPA is promising a ban on animal testing by 2035. So Lee Zeldin, the EPA administrator, revived a plan created during the first Trump administration to end the testing of chemicals on mammals. The EPA will stop using rabbits, mice, rats, and other mammals to test the toxicity of chemicals by 2035, the agency said. We are confident that we will continue to find the weeks and months ahead new technologies, new alternative methods that will allow us to reduce animal testing on something that might be required today, but is not necessary just a few months from now. The ban does not address fish or fish larvae. I think like it's just telling, I feel like, how the same people that are saying we need to study vaccines more, we need to study this new mRNA lipid nanoparticle for vaccine delivery, there's not enough studies on it, is the same group that is literally trying to end animal research so that we can study vaccines and other medicines. Like, it's just wild to me.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about, like, I take your point and I largely agree with it. But and again, to, I guess, try to be transparent as much as possible. Like, yeah, let's just say I'm vegetarian / vegan. So like I have certain issues with animal testing. But all that to say is, like, there's absolutely value in it. And I do think, ideally, in my ideal world, like, we would not test on animals. Do I think we're ready for that now? No. Okay. But I do think a slow, gradual phase out, whatever that looks like. Is this the slow, gradual phase out? I don't know. But if this results in slightly less animal testing without sacrificing the quality of the research or the ability to carry out high quality research, then I'm in favor of it. Obviously, I'm just skeptical by virtue of the fact that this is during the Trump administration, but I should try to not let my biases color my analysis, where I can see potential good coming from this. But as of now,
Well,
I'm a little skeptical.
about that potential good, right? Like, so like I share Dr. Greg's skepticism, right, and Corey's skepticism about all this, right? But like I'm trying to imagine. Okay, so now there is a need, right? That to be filled, right, where there was less of a market for this previously.
Mhm.
So like if the U.S., let's pretend like the next administration, whatever, doesn't like reverse this, right? There is going to be a massive need from pharmaceuticals to find alternatives, and they'll be looking wherever they can find it. So, like, I'm wondering if one, the market might provide something innovative that we haven't seen before, and but two, right? And this references our first conversation. If is like this announcement, this policy shift, is that being accompanied with money, right? And I don't know the answer to this, right? Like, are they going to be putting like those research grants into finding these alternatives, right? Like, are they putting big money behind this? Because that'd be one thing, right? Like, okay, we're gonna provide money to startups, or gonna look for viable alternatives, right? Like, if one can be found, right? I guess I agree with Corey, right? I'd rather not test on animals if we could just not test and have still proper scientific results, right, for experiments. If there was an alternative, I'd love it. But like, is the U.S. actually funding that, or is it just hoping that the market will provide by 2035 something will come up without actually putting an effort behind it? I don't know.
How could we possibly test on humans if we are banning rats, mice, rabbits, and fish, though?
I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I'm not for an outright
ban. I'd sell that product to you if I did have it. I'm saying, but maybe there might be a way. I just don't know.
I would be closer to accepting banning all factory farms and like outline that entire practice than banning mammals for research. Like, because like you're like, one is you're using it for food, but theoretically you could get the proteins from other sources and you could live in a quality of life that unchanged. The other, you're supporting public health and you're creating medicines that are going to help people and create public health measures that are going to save millions of lives potentially. So it's like, I think that there's no world that you would have zero mammalian testing and you go straight to human. You go cell tissue culture into humans. I mean, that's
wait, no. I don't know that I would be so on board to say no world. I mentioned maybe might be hyperbolic, but like, I can imagine, I can I can pull from like sci-fi and whatnot. I can, whether this is actually realistic or not, I don't know. Like, probably not. But I can imagine a world where it's like whatever simulations or organoid systems or whatever that looks like can take the place of mammalian research. But like, I mean, I take your point. And I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I don't know that I would go so far as to say like, there is no world that exists that it's impossible to, not test on mammals without making the jump to humans.
I mean, I think that it would be I think as researchers, we would just be having to be okay with more wild side effects that we had not seen before in these medicines that were jumping from these organoid synthetic models straight to humans, and we're just like okay with seeing like way more adverse side effects. I mean, that's
well,
just.
I agree. The technology is not there now, but I can potentially foresee it.
Even I'm saying even in the world with the best organoid synthetic AI driven model, there is going to be things that drop through. There's going to be interactions that weren't seen because we are more complex than even the best models now or in the future. Even the best, most complex model, like in the future, it's never going to be able to actually match the complexity of a human.
I don't know, like
You're exactly. You're exactly right. Sorry for that power cut, blackout. But
That's okay.
as I heard you right now, that's exactly right. We can't. We are so complex that even our futuristic model, even after 100 years, we can't replicate ourselves, our biology. So that's what I think about this.
I mean, there would have to be like even the best model, like the model is only based on previous interactions. It has to be the mechanisms that we know of how medicine works in the body. And if we're introducing a new chemical that we've never seen before, then how would the trained synthetic model know how it would react if it's trained on previous data? There's just no way to have like
I agree with what you're saying, but it's just like, with what I think what Corey was trying to get at, and I agree with him, is that like we can't say like never, right? Like obviously we don't know what we don't know. We don't know like what future technologies may emerge, right? I think it's highly doubtful that by 2035 we'll find that technology.
That I
Extremely
agree
doubtful. But like we can't say, well, this is simply impossible, right?
Yeah. So then what I would and you don't necessarily have to answer because maybe you don't have an answer. But then how do you feel about, like, do you think we can ever because like this overlaps with the conversation of AI, of like, can we ever truly like replicate the human brain in an artificial system, or like can we ever actually get to AGI that resembles a human? Because I think there's a lot of tech bros that say, well, yeah, we can definitely solve this problem, but then from what I'm understanding from you, and I might be misunderstanding, it's like, well, you can arguably say or make a pretty strong case that like the brain is like one of the most complex things that we know of, and so how could we ever truly model it, or like is it actually impossible to model it synthetically to get to the point of AGI? If you want to maybe share your thoughts, like, do you think it's possible that we can actually ever perfectly model the human brain or like get to AGI, or do you think there's like a built-in barrier to that just based off of the complexity of the human brain, consciousness or whatnot?
I don't know if we could. I mean, we might be able to mirror it, but I don't know if it would ever be considered like human consciousness, because humans innately require evolution and we are a product of that. So I don't know if you could ever definitively, it would be something different. It would be like human hybrid consciousness or something. It would be something entirely different and not completely natural. Like, but I'm just saying that like the existence of the complex interactions that happen within a body, I mean, the hypotheses that it generates with AI have to be tested. So if it hypothesized that, oh, okay, you're going to have this side effect because of this off-target effect, and it's going to bind here and cause this impact, I mean, you'd have to test that. You have to test that interaction, and you don't know what cascading impacts three side effects down the line is going to have. So it's like, you know what I mean? It's just I just don't see how it could ever. I don't see how it could ever completely replace mammalian models, like ever.
Well, so I think what you said when I posed my question about, AGI and replicating human consciousness, I don't necessarily disagree with it, but I think there's a bunch of tech bros that do disagree with you. Now, I'm not saying that they're right, but I think that's for me, the philosophical question obviously we don't have an answer now, but like, I think there's a case for either or. The only thing that I get, or one of the things that I would say is like, I think at the end of the day, I'm not saying that this is feasible or that we'll ever get there, but there is a chance that we could get there, of like, in the presence of perfect knowledge of biology. There's no reason to think that we just can't just predict. Just like we're trying to do this with AlphaFold and like protein prediction. Of like, protein folding is highly complex, like super complex. But there's no reason to believe that like, and the number of actual solved protein structures, which is about 200,000-300,000 by traditional methods. I'm not talking about solved by AlphaFold, or let's say quote unquote solved by AlphaFold. Like, it's a very tiny fraction of like what the actual proteins that exist on Earth. But then it's sort of if I'm understanding you correctly, it's sort of like saying that like, we can never have the algorithm that predicts perfectly protein structure. We will always have to solve it empirically, because we can never have the actual knowledge or the algorithm that can predict a protein structure.
Yeah, we can take the black box, the biological black box, completely out of it. Let's just say we've gotten medicine down to math. Like, it's that algorithm.
Sure, yeah. It's all physics and math. Yeah.
Like, it's like we know it. We don't know, just because math exists now, right, doesn't mean that we have perfect information and we know everything that there is to be about math. It's still being discovered. Things are still being like, there's still new research.
There's unknown variables. Yeah. That like you can't plug into a. Yeah. And I hear you. No, I'm just again, I'm just saying that like, I think it's always a bad idea to say like science can't do a thing, right, with like perfect confidence, because like science has made fools of many of us, right? There's advancements that happen that we just like don't see coming, right? So, but again, like Corey and I are with you that like it's certainly unlikely, especially if like we're not even doing research into like what the alternatives might be. So like it's almost certainly not going to happen. But to answer Corey's question very quickly, right, talking about like the model brain AGI, I just want to like at least the way you phrase the question, there's like those are two different things, right? So like creating creating a synthetic model brain is different necessarily from AGI, like the AGI, like whether it can create a synthetic model brain, I think maybe we could do that at some point. That seems like that could be possible with future technology, and I think also AGI could be different, but they don't have to necessarily overlap, right? Maybe the model brain can't be conscious, and maybe AGI could be possible, but not through like modeling it the best we can through some sort of synthetic means. And also, whether can we get to AGI? I think yes, but not through LLMs, right? That's our current path that we're using, and that we're building data centers, more and more data centers do that, right? I see no evidence, none whatsoever, that LLMs is the path. I know another path is possible, but LLMs are just word predictors. They're just you're not gonna word predict yourself into consciousness, at least as far as I can tell.
I tend to agree, but I'm definitely far from an expert, or I'm a lay person in this domain.
Yeah. I mean, this is very similar to the George W. Bush like stem cell ban, which hurt research. I mean, in the best case scenario, you're basically incentivizing researchers to think outside the box, to use new and more diverse methods in order to do their experiments. So they're trying alternative approaches, which I'm for. Like in general, like I think that's just like good science. That is what interdisciplinary science is. They're trying to assess the problem from different ways, but it just creates, in the meantime, it just creates unnecessary chaos, bad science, and just and people, especially with medicine, you're just going to have more people hurt. I just, that's it. It's so wild.
In the short term, absolutely. The short to medium term, 100%. And I honestly don't think this will stand. So that's the other part of this, right? Like, before I put a hypothetical, but that assuming that the next administration would allow this, like, I think there's going to be massive pressure from pharmaceutical companies, right? The deadline is going to approach for them to end this, and they're just going to keep saying, like, we can't do this. I predict a massive advertising campaign, right? A scare campaign, which actually might be warranted this time, by the pharmaceuticals, right? Talking about, like, hey, we need animal testing for this, right? And tell people, like, we're going to make medicines. They're going to be, like, less safe because we aren't going to be able to test, right? And there's going to be, so to create a public pressure on this. And I think we'll have. It's interesting to see it'll be interesting to see what left-wing groups do, right? Because left-wing groups have traditionally been against animal testing, but, like, I'm curious, like, since there is no alternative currently, I'm curious as to how that could. But I can see, like, there being a struggle on the left, specifically about this. But, like, I think
it's happening now a little bit.
Yeah,
obviously. It's not huge, just green, but.
Yeah, but, like, I just don't see how this stands. Like I think I could see this survives to the end of this administration, but into the next one, I just don't see it happening.
I mean, I think like animal testing should be, like, rigorous and hard to do, and we should, like, respect the lives of those animals, and so it's expensive, and I mean. By the way, this is exactly why I hate working with mammals. I actually had to work with it when we killed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma stage 1 with basically something that we made inside of algae chloroplasts. I had to purify it from the chloroplast, and then we had to apply it to these mice, and it was awful. Like, having to go through in these mice, and you would have different things where the med student, like, didn't their schedule didn't line up perfectly when we had the protein purified at the right time, and they had to sacrifice the entire thing because it didn't, the cancer progressed too much, and we had to sacrifice that entire group. And you're like, dang, that's awful. Stuff like that would happen. That's, like, outside of, like, what you'd we weren't trying to do stage 3, you know what I mean? We didn't think it would work, so it's just kind of, like, worthless. So I think that it should be hard and it should be expensive, but that's also why, as a molecular biologist, I like to change genomes around. I like to make new strains and that kind of stuff. So that's why I like working with microbes, because it's like it's interesting to have millions of different subjects as opposed to a dozen. It's like that as a biologist, it's kind of boring to only work with triplicates, biological triplicates on this kind of stuff, and it's boring, versus what I can do with microbes. It's virtually endless. So I guess, Sinish, how do you feel about, like, animal testing and the use for the applications for medicine and stuff?
Oh, maybe disconnected or
no
longer listening.
Yeah, it's just like there has to be, classically, basically, there's the, from cell tissue culture, and then which is HeLa cells, which is like cancerous liver cells or something like that, that you have to demonstrate that you've, expressed your protein of interest and then that it's there. And then, Sinish, are you there? I just invited him to unmute. Sorry, I had to mute him because of the background noise. So maybe he muted. And then basically there's model organisms to test your thing in. So they typically go and test whatever expression it is specifically for different models. That's why there's different systems that are used. So it's but that's why it's expensive too, because you have to make sure that they're treated nice. They live good, nice lives, instead of Yeah, as a other than being the subject of an experiment.
Yeah, and again, I don't really have a strong disagreement with anything that you outlined, but to steelman the other side, or let's say, a side that I sort of lean towards or I'm sympathetic to, is, and also as an aside, one of the reasons why I went into biochemistry and, wanted to deal with proteins is because, like, I personally could not work with mice or sacrificing mice or any other, mammalian organism. But again, sort of on the flip side or as a potential positive, because so yes, absolutely. I will 1,000% recognize the value of model organisms and testing things in non-human animals before moving up to human testing. But then at the same time, and you express a genuine, valid concern of well, if we're not testing animals and we make the leap straight to humans, it's we might just have to live with greater side effects or more negative outcomes. And I don't necessarily disagree with that, but maybe on the plus side, it's and this is one of the reasons why, again, I'm definitely not against animal testing, but having this system in place can sometimes be a hindrance, or one of the positives is if we minimize animal testing, or let's say going to the extreme of abolishing altogether, which I'm not saying that we should do that, but one of the challenges of pharmaceutical development that happens all the time, that I'm sure as well, in terms of you can go through all the stages, but then once you make the jump to humans, as in you get positive signal in every other model organism, but as soon as you make the jump to humans, things just crash and burn for the vast majority of pharmaceutical drugs. And moving up the scale of model organisms, that's wasted time and money. But if you just go right to humans, I'm not saying that we should do that, but there's a potential benefit to that. Well, we have to waste all this time and money going through, HeLa cells to C. elegans to whatever, to hamsters, to chimpanzees, to canines. And then get to human, we crash and burn. Then if you go straight to humans, you can answer your question right away. Well, not right away, but you get the data that you want quicker. And I'm not saying that this is the direction that we should go, but I can see a world where that has some positive benefits.
Sure. Yeah. In a perfect world, if that was and that was possible, then yeah, for sure. But it's just, I guess I just don't see it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I just
and totally, maybe I'm wrong as well. Again, absolutely, I'm not saying that we need to abolish all animal testing or even do what's being proposed here. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm inherently skeptical given the fact that it's coming from this administration, but then also at the same time, have to try to attempt to put my biases aside and say, well, maybe there's something good here. I have some criticisms towards animal testing, but there's valid concerns here.
Sanish, you got a dirty mic, man. It's really hot. But what do you feel about animal testing, man? How do you feel about the United States trying to ban rodent, mammal, mice, that kind of stuff for animal testing for chemicals? Sanish, are you there? Yeah. You're very far from the mic. Did you connect to a Bluetooth device?
Now.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, it's still unethical, to test on mammals, but you must have something to test on first, man. You can't just typically test on humans. So I think it's being unethical, but yeah, it's a process, and you have to trust the process for progression. So I prioritize the progression first in the term of mammal testing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's I think we should honor and the sacrifice that those those animals made, and we should like not take it for granted, and we should absolutely like genuinely. I love the the statue. I think it's in Russia about like all the the mice that
The
are
rodent, yeah. Or,
yeah.
mouse.
I think I think that's incredible, man. I think that we should like genuinely honor the lives that got us here. So real quick, the last one. So EPA promises, no, sorry, that's the wrong one. Vaccines. The rejecting decades of science, a vaccine panel chief says polio and other shots should be optional. So Dr. Kirk Milhound, a pediatric cardiologist who leads the advisory committee on immunization practices, said a person's right to refuse a vaccine outweighed concerns about illness or death from infectious diseases. Offering a startlingly candid view on the philosophy guideline vaccine recommendations under the Trump administration, the leader of the federal panel that recommends vaccines for Americans said shots against polio and measles and perhaps all diseases should be optional, offering only a consultation with a clinician. Dr. Milhound, a pediatric cardiologist who's the chair of the advisory committee on immunization practices, said that he did have concerns that some children might die of measles or become paralyzed with polio as a result of the choice not to vaccinate. But he said, quote, "I also am saddened when people die of alcoholic diseases," adding freedom of choice and bad health outcomes. So in the fact of infectious disease, a personal choice to decline a vaccine may also affect others, including infants who are too young to be vaccinated or people who are immunocompromised, but a person's right to reject the vaccine precedes those risks, said Milhound. If there is no choice, then informed consent is an illusion, he said. Without consent, it is medical battery.
Yeah, I think this is
It's a
probably
loophole, man. It's a totally loophole. One side you have human rights, one side you have you're forcing. You can't force anyone to do anything, but you can. But at least you can make them aware of what they are doing. You know.
How
The
do we,
vaccine
like, how do we like incentivize vaccinations, Sanish? What do you think? What would be the way that as a society we can incentivize people to be vaccinated?
probably doing some. I'm not good at marketing and commercializing things like that, but we can definitely do something like free trial and test, and showing them actual result instead of statistical things. Maybe we can demonstrate on volunteers who can willing to do that, and show them the practical result instead of statistical result at first. That's my thought.
Thank you, Sanish. So what do you think, Corey?
Yeah, well, this definitely I have much stronger negative feelings towards this article, where obviously I think this is a bad stance to take, especially by presumably a medical professional, or they appear to be like a medical doctor. And as yeah, exactly. And as you said, as you read some of the excerpts from the article, they say that I also am saddened when people die of alcoholic diseases, adding freedom of choice and bad health outcomes. But then as I'm curious if he takes like the same position or the same analysis to like drunk driving of like, because like and I view an unvaccinated person, depending on like what they're unvaccinated for, as like a drunk driver. Like you are putting other people, not just yourself, but other people at risk. I'm curious if this person, since he seems to be, I think he explicitly says he's all about autonomy and freedom of choice and consent. Okay, well, does that go so far as allowing a drunk person behind the wheel? I highly doubt he's willing to bite that bullet. But if he is, I want to hear him say it, and actually have the courage to say it then.
I mean, how does he feel with people spitting on his face?
Yeah,
but that's not allowed. Why? Oh, that's not allowed. Oh, but it is okay for people to spit measles on you. But what's the difference? I would rather have someone spit in my face than spit measles on me, personally. But hey, That's
I
just
agree with you there.
so apparently, is this guy saying that we can, that we can for that one? He's just lining up for that, or I mean, it's just insane. The idea that like the comparing it to, it's not a communicable disease like what he's talking about. There's other examples. They're not, they're not spread by someone else's choice. You are removing freedom. You are you do not. What's this, Millhound? You don't have my consent to push your stuff onto me. That is where the consent lies in public health. It's not with the individual. It's with the public. So it's so short-sighted and insane. I mean, the idea that this guy is literally saying that it would be okay for polio to come back. He's basically just basically saying that, like, well, I mean, if it comes back, it comes back. Like, that's just wild, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, what you've already pretty much covered this, but like what you're alluding to is that, when you're in a society, right, there is some level of social contract. It changes from place to place, but like there's some level of social contract that, like, if you're gonna live here, you're gonna have to restrict your freedoms, your liberties, right, your absolute liberties to a certain extent, just so that we can get along, right? Like, at some point they used to do this, but like at some point, like, you couldn't like throw your feces outside your window anymore. Or like, oh, actually, probably it's not going to work out. It's not.
Hey, those were the good old days, Prime. That's what
those are the good old
conservatives want to
days.
go back to.
And why don't I have the liberty, right? Why don't I want to put my feces in a bucket, right? And when I'm done with it, I just want to toss it out, right? Like we made these like health concessions because it turns out the consequences could be disastrous, like otherwise, right? Like and I don't want to completely ignore like the merits of his argument, because like the big difference here is, like, now you're forcing something inside of my body, right? That's different, right, from a ban of like you can't spit, right, on someone's face, right? Like I think what you laid out there, Dr. Greg, I think is, it's still is a good metaphor, but like in terms of like perfectly matching here, like that ban doesn't involve like injecting some chemical that like I personally haven't tested, I personally haven't vetted into my body, just telling me it'll be okay, right, by government fiat, like this will be okay. So it is a bit different. To be clear, I'm not anti-vaxxer, like even not even the slightest, but like that is different, and I'd have to put some thought into it. But I don't know of another, like a parallel to that anywhere else. Maybe there is something, but I don't know what an exact parallel to that.
It's really,
again, the other option, fine. The last thing I'll say, the other option is just to, like, if you don't like those that regulation, that's fair, right? But maybe move to some place where other people agree with you, and you can all pass the polio virus between yourselves, right, and enjoy from there. But
That
still,
was good old
just wanna say
polio
it is
parties like they were having during COVID.
yeah, fucking yeah. Okay, yeah, amazing. Sorry, go ahead, Dr. Greg.
yeah. I mean,
Don't do that. No polio parties.
So Milhound said that making the vaccines optional rather than requiring them, as is now the case, would ultimately restore trust in public health. Does anyone believe that? Does anyone believe that anti-vaxxers, by removing the choice from some of these, and we've seen that, we've already seen that some of these are taken off. They're not required. They've already done that with 6 of the vaccines. So have we, like, what public health has been restored? Have you seen that? Did we see in the 1990s when they changed the preservation what's the thing,
Aluminum,
the T thimerosal. They removed the
Oh.
thimerosal from a majority of the vaccines because of anti-vax insanity, and they capitulated and said there was nothing wrong with it, and they said, "Oh yeah, thank you, Afon." And like, did that change anything? Are they talking now about the post?
Actually, it did. It changed the organization name of RFK's anti-vax movement, because I think before it was like associated. It rebranded to the Children's Health Defense, whatever. Like before, it was like whatever the anti mercury and vaccine movement. And it's like, oh, we solved that. Now we have to rebrand to like the Children's Health Defense, whatever.
And obviously, I mean, they trust public health enough that all they talk about now is that that we are in the post, because this is what their concern was, that it was causing autism. So therefore, that's all they talk about now, how we are in the post autism vaccine era, and everyone is, everyone's fine now. Of course not. Of course they don't say that. Of course they hound on it. Like these are the same people that were saying we're not anti-vax, we're just anti this vaccine. And then guess what? They're against all vaccines. Like, wow, everyone knew about it at the time, and we kind of like let these people kind of go down the plank and walk the plank, because we thought, well, at least they're walking their plank themselves, and this looks like insane, but they're only harming themselves. And then now it's obvious that it was anti-vax all the way down, and they're just, it's just crazy, man. The idea that we could restore public health from this is just insane.
Yeah, and it's, I think also, it's like, what is like public health? What does that term mean, right? And public health, maybe you guys have a better, more complex definition than I do, but like my understanding of what public health is basically like the administration, the regulations, the laws that we put in place, right? So that we keep the larger population, society healthy, right? Like that's like the goal. And part of the social contract, right? This understanding is that, like, yes, we're going to limit those, a few of those liberties, right? But on the other hand, you don't have to bury your child because they got an easily preventable disease, right? Because we have these regulations in place, and your child gets to live even though they may not be strong enough initially to handle some sort of infection or whatever. So like the faith and public trust has been built up from years of not having like a pandemic after pandemic, right? Like there's there was like this article talking about, like, if you want to understand like what public health has done, right? Like go to the graveyard, right? Like go to before we had these regulations, and you'll see that, like, if you follow the dates, there'd be like dates where there's just like an explosion of graves here, and particularly the little ones, right? Because like whole families or like your half a family will just be gone, wiped out, because a virus swept through the community, and then that was that was it, right? That's human society, like writ large, up to the modern era. Was that like, yeah, I mean, just, a plague is going to come through eventually, right? And you have to, and you even, it like, public health has changed the structure of our families, because you don't have to have so many damn kids, right? Because there was a thought that, like, your kid just might die from a plague. There was nothing you could do about that, right? So it was just like a numbers game. Yes, like woman, right? Wife, you got to produce more babies for me, because otherwise we don't know how many are going to make it, right? So like it changed so much about our modern world, this idea of public health. So when like I hear the phrase restoring faith in public health, I'm like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean like inside the minds of like anti-vaxxers who, that fact-free zone, where by this they seemingly mean, right, that like no one can tell me anything, I can do anything, no matter how much it puts other people in danger, right?
Exactly.
If that's the case, then correct. But if it's instead, right, like the continued protection we have from the most vile diseases, right, the most vile consequences, like spreading like on a mass scale, right? If it's that, well, I think we're already there, right? I think there's plenty of trust in public health, which is why the majority of us continue to follow these guidelines.
Exactly. I mean, like, how is public health going to be restored when we have more outbreaks, more epidemics, more people dying from disease? How could that possibly, how could that, like, more people being impacted, more disease spreading? How could anyone trust public health or the governments that are supposed to institute public health when we're going to have an increase of disease spreading? Like, that just doesn't follow. People are going to be more distrustful because they're going to be like, you failed. You completely failed.
You failed.
Exactly.
Why should we follow these regulations? You failed. Like, we were just like this. What this is doing for us? Yeah,
like a bag of water or something, like a Ziploc bag full of water, and like there's a hole in the bag, and it's like the hole has water leaking out, and we put a piece of tape on it, and it's leaky. Okay, and there's like some leaks in it. Okay, it's not perfect, but then the RFK example is like, what if we just put 8 more holes in the bag? It won't look as bad, that one, you know. And it's like, well, yeah, but like the goal should be to like not lose water from the bag, in the same way that like we should be trying to, you know, uphold like increase the amount of testing. If you want to increase the amount of testing, do that. Try the new test, try some new protocols, as opposed to this other thing where they're just like, we want to test less. Like, we want less animal testing. Like, it's just wild to me, man. It's just, it's so uneducated, with no historical relevance, with no scientific basis, no studies, nothing. It's just all feels and vibes that they're going off, and people are going to die because of it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. As I sort of like to say, or how I sort of conceptualize it, which might be, you know, inaccurate, but, you know, it seems to be sort of the sad reality that vaccines are a victim of their own success. Since like there aren't people, you know, dying in the streets of smallpox, it's like it's not on our radar. So, well, what's the use of this until we actually get to that place? It's, you know, that mentality of like, we have to consistently burn our hand on the stove to consistently learn our lesson, type of thing.
It's so frustrating, dude. It's so frustrating.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Yeah, like public health has been so successful that people don't understand the terror, the honest to God terror of living in a world without it, and the heartbreak. Right? How many kids buried by mothers? Right? Like, and again, all of human history. This was all of human history to like the last century. Right, this is amazing. This is one of the greatest things, right? And like like another one would be, and we can wrap things up here because we gotta head out. But like, you know, people say like the greatest like tool of public health, right? The toilet, right? The toilet, like going back to the feces thing, right? Like the fact that we can just flush away our waste and it can go far away from us without anyone having to handle it, right? Massive. It saved so many lives, and like these people, like again, like I it sounded hyperbolic, but like, why shouldn't I have the ability to toss out my feces out the window, right? Why shouldn't I do that? The reasons why, because of this massive disease spread, right? Like, and these same people, I'm curious of RFK. Like, if I was like, you know, RFK was walking along a public sidewalk, right, and I had a barrel of my feces, and I'm not going to toss it at him. I'm just going to toss it in the general area, right? I'm getting rid of my feces in the general area of RFK. I'm wondering if he'd be okay with that, you know, like
even more so if it's Ebola laced feces, he would like it even more, because then there's more disease in it. You know,
it's crazy. It's crazy, right? You had no idea the lives that the toilet has saved, right? Like modern plumbing saved by the toilet, right? And then the same thing, you have no idea how many lives have been saved by vaccines. Amazing revolution. And now to toss it away for morons. Sorry.
Yeah, 5 million a year.
Nothing to apologize for.
Yeah, 5 million a year, at least 4 million of which are kids.
Dr. Greg, you know how it's funny. What are they trying to defend exactly? It's so ironical to listen to this all anti-vaccination, you know. what are they trying to defend exactly? If you defend the human rights, one day there will be no human to defend human rights.
That's so true. Exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys. We gotta wrap it there, but thank you guys so much for please follow Corey. They're in the guest boxes. Please follow all our guests. Sanish, Corey, Prime. Thank you guys so much.
And Greg.
Your outro.
Yeah. You can go first, Corey.
Okay. Yeah. As always, great conversation. Always love being here. I think this is like one of the few times we had like the slightest of disagreement on the animal testing. But even then, I don't really truly disagree with you. I'm just trying to provide
repaired. No, that's
true. But yeah, you can find me on Twitch, Corey Cal94, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, Substack, TikTok. It's Corey Campbell. And yeah, the last thing that I'll end with is, as like I alluded to earlier, as an example of how the anti-vaccine movement will just no matter what, there's no satisfying them. They will just shift the goalpost because, as I said, this is straight from the Wikipedia. The Children's Health Defense is an American 501c3 nonprofit activist group, mainly known for anti-vaccine advocacy, and is one of the main sources of misinformation on vaccines. Founded as World Mercury Project in 2007 by Eric Layden, and was chaired from RFK from 2015 to 2023. But it's known as the Children's Health Defense now because they were originally World Mercury Project, as you pointed out, Greg. Thimerosal was pretty much like largely phased out. I think there's maybe like 1 or 2 vaccines that still use it. But since that problem was solved, it's like, well, we have to rebrand now to the Children's Health Defense. So there's no satisfying.
In the first place.
Yeah, and it wasn't a problem in the first. Exactly. As in, we will take your concerns seriously. Okay. Your World Mercury Project was successful. We will cave to your pressure, even though there's actually no legitimate reason to do that. And they just rebrand to the Children's Health Defense.
Exactly.
My understanding, and I could be wrong about this, is that without those preservatives, or maybe we found an alternative, but it made it harder to transport those vaccines to get them to places that really needed them. But I don't have a full understanding of that, but that's my understanding. There's a reason why they were there in the first place, not for shits and giggles, right? But I'll leave that there. But thank you for having me, Dr. Greg. It's really wonderful meeting everyone in the audience. Thank you to our guests, the guests that are Dr. Greg invited. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for sharing with us all. And if you want to find me on Twitch, YouTube, and kick.com/PrimeKai, PRIMECAYES. We have debates. They're a lot of fun. Come join us to get wild and crazy. You'll have a good time. Also, if you'd be so kind, follow me on TikTok, so that I can start doing more TikTok debates, right? So you can find me arguing with people. If you like the way I argue, follow me on TikTok, right? So I gotta get a certain number of people, so then I can start arguing with individuals. So help me out. Just find me in the box over there, the guest list there. Just give me a follow, and then I can yell at people on your behalf on the internet. And won't that be fun? So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.
Always a pleasure. Take care. Be well.
Take care.